Hi, what's up? I'm DJ Sixsmith. You're watching The Sit Down. It's my CBS colleague over here, Aasif Mandvi.
That's right.
What's up, man?
How are you?
Good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Look at this guy. This has been quite an experience for you here.
I know. What a ride, and an amazing ride that we've gone on with this show.
What a show. I finally saw the first episode. I'm behind.
Are you? You're way behind.
I'm way behind.
You know we're up to the last episode.
I know. And Katja's been in here before, too.
Has she?
Yeah, and she's awesome. And Michael Emerson was here.
Oh, wow.
So I finally got to it.
You got to it. So you hadn't even watched it when you talked to them.
I hadn't even watched it.
So now you actually
have
some context to put all this in.
Because I saw the guy on The Price is Right the other day. He's in the full evil getup. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Oh, George?
Yeah.
The demon?
Yeah.
He was here?
No, he was on The Price is Right. So people got super confused who haven't seen the show.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So they're like, is there a demon on the show?
So wait, who was bidding on Price is Right?
Yes. You gotta check this out.
$6.66.
He went 666. Exactly.
Right,
and so people are like, what the hell is going on?
That's crazy.
So yeah, we wrote articles about it, be like, no, this is a promotion for the final episode of Evil.
People were like, there's a demon on my TV. You know, people.
Especially you think about who's watching The Price is Right during the day, and that guy pops up.
Yeah.
So anyway, when you think about this show, what sticks out to you so far?
Just the fun of it, and also like the writing is so great. Robert and Michelle King, who created the show, are just such smart writers, and the show has gone in such unexpected places that none of us expected it to go. You know, you think, oh, a show like this, it's a procedural, it's kind of a demon of the week kind of thing, and it could have very easily been that, but it's actually so much smarter than that, and dealt with so many more societal issues and sort of commentary on what's going on in our world in a way far beyond what you might think. So it's taken this premise of, like, three characters who are investigating paranormal activity or demonic possession and stuff, and then taking it to a whole other level. So that's been the fun thing, to watch the progression of that throughout the season.
Yeah, and it's witty also. Like, there's some moments that you laugh in there amidst all the craziness of the show.
Yeah, there's humor in there, and it's a mixed bag. It's like there's some scares, there's some humor, there's some really emotional stuff that happens in the show. It's something for everybody.
And it also really makes you think just about all this other crap that's going on out there, right? Well, regardless of what you believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of really, we have a whole thing in the season about incels and sort of, and how technology allows people to, how people use technology to infiltrate, quote unquote evil or bad things or bad people getting, being able to manipulate other people. So there's all that kind of stuff going on, which is so prevalent in our society today, especially the use of technology.
Yeah, I mean, that's ever present, right?
Right, yeah.
What's been the biggest challenge of playing this character?
Well, he's so different than me, he's...
How is he different?
Well, first of all, he's way better at fixing things and way handier around the house.
That's just number one right there.
Yeah, my wife was like, that Ben is sexy. Like, I
why
like that
can't
guy.
Ben be here?
Exactly.
Can he hang this photo for us?
I know. I'm like, I can change a light bulb, but yeah, and he's, but also just playing a guy who I think is much more of he's an empiricist, he's a scientist, he's a pragmatist. They're not necessarily qualities that I totally possess.
Sure.
So that was fun to sort of inhabit that world and to inhabit this guy who's much more grounded than I am, and much more certain of his beliefs than I am. So that feels to me like it was an exciting challenge to enter that world.
Yeah, and I feel like TV is an exciting challenge in and of itself with all the different shows going on there.
Well, there's so much to watch
There is a ton of stuff, but this is something that cuts through because it's so specific and so unique. So I think you guys have the benefit, but like you said, like, the reason why I didn't get to this is because I'm watching 10 other shows.
Yeah, exactly. But I think people are starting to find it now, which is great. And as we come to the end of our season, which you've only just started, you're a perfect example of someone who will probably binge the show now and experience it all as one, which I think is the way people now watch television. So it's great. I'm excited for people to start finding the show.
Yeah, definitely. But people have found the show, so what's it been like experiencing it with those people week by week?
Well, people it's funny being inside of it because obviously our perspective, my perspective and Katya and Mike and all, our perspective is so different, you know, but people outside have their theories about what's going on, what's going to happen, you know, who's the devil. Somebody just told me that somebody thinks that her husband is the devil, you know. So, and it's all this kind of, I love listening to people's theories about it. Of course, we only know as much as we know. We know more than the audience, but we don't know as much as the kings do, you know. So it's fun to listen to people on Twitter like sort of theorize about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean the conspiracy theorists, I'm sure, are out in full force.
Sure.
And just the interesting conversations I would imagine just around the show. Even people here in the office, like they're starting to give me some history of demonic people that I didn't even know that were the thing.
There's a history of demonic people.
Apparently so.
Oh, there you go. And apparently here in this office, they know who they are.
So when you think about your career, what have been the keys for you kind of building this thing out? Like from when you first started to where you're at now?
Oh gosh, you know, I started off as a young sort of brown actor who showed up in New York with a theater degree and played a lot of cab drivers and did a lot of guest spots. You know.
Yeah, how old were you when you first got here?
I was in my 20s, so when I first got to New York, and won a lot of roles, you know, for brown actors.
Very stereotypical roles.
I played a lot of cab drivers and wore a lot of lab coats, and you know, back then it was just like me and a couple of others, and now, you know, it's obviously changed. Now there's one brown actor, now we have 8. Right. So that's terrific, you know. And then what I started doing in my career was I started writing my own material, and I ended up writing a one-man show called Sakina's Restaurant, which we did off-Broadway. It was the first off-Broadway or the play in New York that was written by a South Asian about the South Asian immigrant experience, and that really got people to notice me, and then I ended up getting more roles in movies and TV, and ended up on Broadway, and then of course found myself on The Daily Show in 2006, and that was a whole other level, a direction that I never expected to go. I've always found that my career has been unexpected to me, and I've fortunately gotten to do a lot of different things. People know me from comedy, and The Daily Show, and that, but then something like Evil, which is drama,
totally different.
It's a totally different thing. But I feel like I've gotten to do both things, and I've gotten to do stage and TV, and so I feel fortunate in the sense that when you know, I had to sort of always be malleable in order to get work. You know, I didn't fit into a type for a lot of casting directors or studios and stuff. So I was always, you know, when you're a minority actor, you're always like, I can play, you know, the Japanese guy, you know, whatever. Like even if you're Indian, you know, like you just feel like, oh, I can do that. And so you try to be adept at as many skills as you can. So I was doing stand-up, and I was doing a solo show for a while, and you know, and my career has reflected that, because I've gotten to do a lot of different things, and I'm better for it. I think I'm a better artist for it, and I think it has made me not get too stuck in one thing or bored, you know, with one thing. So
yeah, I think that's a good way to go about it. Like, you could have just blamed the industry and be like, there aren't enough parts, but like, you wrote your own thing.
Well, I wrote my own thing, and it was the only thing to do at the time. You know, there was no I didn't have a safety net. My parents were, you know, did not say, come back home.
Right, it was all on you at that point. You had to make it happen.
It was like, if you want to be an actor, then you're on your own. You go to New York, you know, and I got to New York, and I literally had an apartment like half the size of this room.
Where were you living? What part of the city?
In Queens.
Okay.
In Long Island City.
Yeah.
I had a mattress on the floor, and I had a bookshelf, a mattress, and a mirror leaning up against the wall, and a hole in the roof where the ceiling had fallen through.
How much a month were you paying at that point?
So I paid $300 a month.
Wow.
And I had a landlady who, at the time, I thought she was French, but she was actually German.
Okay.
But she spoke with a French accent because during World War II, she hated Hitler, and so she decided to stop speaking with a German accent and just adopt a French persona.
Wow.
And so, so this was the landlady that I had, and she would she charged me $300 a month for rent. and I paid $300 a month for 10 years, and often could not even pay that.
Yeah, because you're just struggling to piece it together.
I was just trying to hold it together.
Yeah.
I had I was eating tuna fish out of a can for years.
So you lived there for 10 years?
I lived in that apartment for 10 years. Well, I moved, it was like a railroad apartment, so I moved into a larger space, but basically ended up paying $300 a month. Wow. And there was no way I could have survived
without that
$300 a month rent, because that was about all I could afford,
So
to live in New York
did
City.
the bigger spot have a regular ceiling, no hole in the ceiling?
Yeah, then I moved to a slightly larger place, and and then I had an apartment where cats fell out of the ceiling. That was a whole other thing.
It's just typical New York. There's always something.
The story of New York apartments is insane. It's like the amount of the sort of you live in New York?
I live in New Jersey, but my brother lives here in the city. My friends have moved in a bunch of different places.
The stuff that we put up with as New Yorkers in terms of living space is
You're just like, oh, we're cool with it. But you tell the people, why would you ever do that?
I know.
Like, why are cats falling out of the ceiling?
I lived in an apartment where cats fell out of the ceiling. It was a basement apartment underneath this building. It was like the boiler room. It used to be the boiler room or something. And they turned it into a basement. It was a studio apartment. And
where are the cats coming from?
So there were access doors on top of on the roof, and the feral cats would run around at night, and I would hear them chasing rats. And then one time, one of them literally fell through the access door into this huge black and white tomcat, falls in my apartment, and I freak out.
I would too.
And it's running around, and then that apartment flooded, and because it rained and they didn't clear the drains, and it was just so. One day there's going to be a one-man show just about that apartment.
Yeah, I can hear it already.
Yeah.
So when you think about your career, like prior to The Daily Show, what were the big ones for you where you started to move the needle a little bit and really felt like you were starting to do the thing?
Well, prior to The Daily Show, obviously The Daily Show was a huge one for me, but prior to that was my one-man show, Sakina's Restaurant, which I performed in 1998 for the first time. And then we did a revival of it in 2018 at the Minetta Lane Theater. And then I'm doing it again this year at the Kirk Douglas Theater in LA.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
So that was a big moment for me, and it got, like I said, a lot of attention, and people noticed who I was. And then the late Ismail Merchant, Merchant Ivory, who people know from Remains of the Day and Howard's End and those classic movies that got so much Oscar acclaim back in the 80s and 90s. He cast me in what ultimately ended up being his final film called The Mystic Masseur. And he saw me in Sakina's Restaurant, came to opening night, and literally came into my dressing room, barged into my dressing room after the show and said, I want you to star in my next movie.
Wow.
Which is a huge thing to hear as a young actor. Yeah. And so, of course, I end up starring in this movie that we shot in Trinidad.
Wow.
And, I thought it was going to change my life, but nobody saw the movie. So, like 5 people saw the movie.
That's the thing, like you do something, you don't even know if people are going to check it out.
Yeah, you have no idea. So, but it was an amazing experience to just star in a movie and work with this legendary producer, director. And I got to work with him, and he became a friend of mine until he unfortunately passed away in 2005. But even today, James Ivory is someone that I still am friends with, and don't talk to him that much. But it was an amazing relationship to create and people to know so early on in my career. And it was an amazing little tiny film. You can find it probably somewhere on Netflix.
But at least with streaming now, people can find this stuff.
Yeah,
that's a cool thing.
And it's a great little movie based on the V.S. Naipaul novel called The Mystic Masseur. And we spent 3 months in Trinidad shooting it. So
that's crazy.
It was kind of crazy, yeah.
I mean, even like Spider-Man 2, you got the part playing.
Spider-Man 2, which
that was a good one.
It was great, and even today, people are still on Instagram and Twitter, they still talk about Spider-Man 2. And it's funny because it was a movie that I almost didn't do.
Really?
Because I had just done The Mystic Masseur, and I had starred in this movie. And I remember when they called me and they offered me the part of the pizza guy in Spider-Man 2. I said, I don't think I'm going to do that. Because I just started.
You're like, I was the guy in this one. Why would
I was like, why do I want to
be
be in this? And I don't think I realized. And I remember like the producers like calling me at like midnight, and they're being like, wait a minute, are you seriously
Like,
turning down Spider-Man 2? And I was like, and I gave them this long story about like, you work hard in this business, and you just, and I wanted, it was a whole, the contract of it, and like, it was the credit and the money, and eventually my agents all figured it out and everything, but I almost didn't do that movie because of like my own sense of like, well, I just started a movie. Yeah. Why would I want to do this? Right. And it turned out to be obviously Sam Raimi, another amazing person to have gotten to work with. I have to say, like, one thing I'm very fortunate about and thankful for is like working with the people that I've gotten to work with
some amazing people
over my careers. Like Sam Raimi and obviously Jon Stewart, and now the Kings. So that is, I think, ultimately what makes you a better artist and a better actor and writer and performer is getting to work with people who are so much smarter and better than you are.
You had Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson in the internship.
Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson.
That movie's hilarious, by the way. I mean, your character is
and Sean
stealing
Levy,
scenes.
Again, another great, such an amazing, and that was a fun movie to make as well. Just working with those guys, and Owen Wilson, just such a character himself.
And going back and forth with those guys too. It's like, no, I won't be grabbing a cold one with you tonight.
Yes, and that scene in the movie was mostly improvised because Vince Vaughn just kept throwing out different food items, and I just started repeating them. And then I thought, oh my God, how long is this going to go? And I thought, can I remember? And I was struggling. I was like, am I going to remember? But he was like, da, 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 and I would like repeat it back, and it just built and built and built. And when we were done, it was like we were exhausted. And then I went to Sean Levy, and I was like, and he was like, it was great. It was great because I actually managed to remember everything he was saying, but he just kept
you're going shot for shot.
All those food items that he keeps throwing out, pizza, dessert, whatever it is.
Right, and it's like you get high, and he's going for that one too.
He was improvising in the moment. Like that wasn't the scene, and it just became such an iconic scene in that movie. It's so great.
That's awesome. What about The Proposal? What do you remember from that?
The Proposal was so much fun, and I remember that Anne Fletcher, who directed it, she cast me, and I had this tremendous scene that I did, and it was really funny. And then they wanted to do reshoots, like 4 or 5 months later, and they had originally planned on a scene where they come back at the end and they meet my character back at the office again at the end of the movie. But in the interim, I had done a movie that I wrote and starred in called Today's Special. And in doing that movie, I had lost like 15 pounds.
Wow.
And so when when I came back, like 5 months later, Anne was like, I can't put you in the movie.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, why not? She's like, you're 15 pounds lighter. And I said, well, maybe my character lost some weight. And she was like, this whole movie takes place over a weekend. Like on Friday, you are 15 pounds heavier than you are on Monday morning. And so she couldn't put me in the back end, in the last part of the movie, because she was like, you look like a different person.
At least you still got in there, right?
Yeah, and the scene is great. And I still... people love that movie.
Yeah,
it was really great.
I liked $1 Million Arm also.
Thanks.
I really enjoyed that one. I feel like that one should have gotten some more buzz. Why do you think that one didn't cut through? And what was that experience
I don't know what
like?
happened there. It was such a great story, and
incredible story.
And I met the real guys who did that movie. I mean, who did the real baseball guys. Yeah. And I think it was just fun to go to India and work in India.
Yeah, what was the craziest part of that experience?
Oh, I mean, where do you begin? Like, it was just I think what was great was Alan Arkin had all his food shipped in because his therapist or somebody had told him that he was going to get sick if he went to Mumbai, and so like all the food that he had was like shipped in from the U.S. He wouldn't eat any of it, and but then they said you'll be fine in Lucknow. Lucknow is a much smaller town, and I was thinking to myself,
like, wait,
Alan,
what?
Somebody told you you're going to get sick in Mumbai, but not in Lucknow. So in Lucknow, he was fine. He's eating everything, like all the dosas and everything. But then in Mumbai, he's like, no way, I'm not eating it. But just like, we were shooting on a bridge one time, and these auto rickshaw guys showed up, and they refused to let us film because they needed to get somebody who was sick. They needed to get them across this bridge.
Oh my gosh.
And so we wanted them to wait for a few minutes, and they refused to wait, but they really didn't have a person who was sick. They just wanted to.
Oh,
they
just
wanted
wanted to be there? Oh.
They wanted money so that they could, because we were blocking their business route, which was this bridge that went over this little river. And Disney refused to offer any bribes.
They wouldn't budge.
And the Indian production crew was like, you cannot make a movie in India if you don't bribe people. Like, you have to bribe people to get out of the way. And so finally, like, one of the actors, I think, actually just ended up giving, money. It was a trip making that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's little stories like that that make these experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I remember so many. Just and working with John Hamm. I think I was there when John Hamm tried his first legitimate chicken tikka masala.
How did that go?
It was great. Like we had.
He was in on it. He liked it.
Yeah, he loved it.
Yeah.
He was like, oh. And
I've been missing out.
And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm like watching you have your first chicken tikka masala. I did this when I was 5.
Right now, you get to immerse yourself in the culture.
Exactly. So it was kind of great. Yeah.
That's awesome. What are some other things you'd still like to do? I mean, you've done all these different things. What else still appeals to you?
Gosh, what else still appeals to me? I mean, I just, I love still working, and it is my, and I'm writing more now these days, and just I think just constantly being in the creative process for me is my lifeblood. So I feel like if I'm acting, if I'm writing, if I'm creating stuff, it all feels like that's what I wake up to do, and so I just keep on doing that.
So when people check this out, like me, who have to catch up, haven't seen it yet, what are the big things you want them to take away from this season?
Just how magnificent Ben is. And that's why he's called Ben the Magnificent. You haven't gotten to that part yet.
I haven't gotten to that part yet.
But you'll see how magnificent
I'll understand,
Ben is.
yeah.
No, it's just a great show. It's really entertaining. It's really smart. It goes places that you don't expect it to go. And I think if you stay with it, you will. Especially if you stay all the way till the end, the finale is coming up, and it's bonkers. So it's just worth it just to get there.
Looking forward to it. Good to meet you, man.
Thanks, man. Nice to meet you.
A pleasure. Check this guy out. Season finale, Vivo on CBS. You won't be disappointed. For Aasif, I'm DJ. See you next time. You're on The Sit Down.